It is through action, not enjoyment, that a person feels truly alive. The busier we are, the more we feel that we live, and the more conscious we are of our own existence. In idleness, we not only feel that life is passing us by, but we are actually aware of our own lifelessness, a kind of hollow, restless feeling that no amount of lying on the mat, snacking, or self-intoxicating can quite shake. Activity is part of what sustains life in the first place. The pleasures of life do not genuinely fill up time, they leave it empty. And the human mind abhors an empty stretch of time. Such times breed boredom and bad mood, so we get fed up with them. Think of how uncomfortable it feels to sit in a waiting room with nothing to do, or to have an unexpected free afternoon with no plan. Most people find it genuinely unsettling rather than relaxing. The present moment may seem full to us, but if we have filled it with frivolous play and passive amusement, that feeling of fullness is confined to the present moment only. Think of a multi-day break spent watching street plays or engaging endlessly in chit-chats. It can feel pleasantly absorbing in the moment, but by the evening of the last day, there is often a nagging sense that nothing actually happened. Memory will find it empty, since we have done so little in it. Similarly, if we have done nothing in life except waste our time, and we then look back over the span of it, we are puzzled to know how it has passed so quickly. Time can be filled only by action. Only when occupied are we truly conscious that we live. Indulgence gives us a feeling of insufficiency because life is the faculty of spontaneous activity, the awareness of all our human powers. Occupation gives us this awareness, and the more we feel our powers, the more we feel that we are alive. Sensation is only the capacity to be aware of impressions. In it, we are merely passive, or only so far active as to make awareness possible at all. But the more a person has acted, the more conscious he is of his life, the more he can remember it, because there is much to remember, and at death, the more he feels he has had fullness of life. Ask anyone in old age what they remember and are proudest of. It will be the things they did, the challenges they faced, the projects they carried through, not the holidays they spent doing nothing in particular. To have had one's fill of life is very different from reaching the point of getting satiated with life, or jaded with life, so to speak. Mere enjoyment makes a person satiated with life. But we can die in fullness of life if throughout our lifetime we have led a life of action and have occupied ourselves in busy work, in other words, make full use of our life. This is a necessary condition for us not to be sorry to have lived. People who have done little become uncomfortably satiated with life. It is as though he has never really lived at all, and he finds himself wanting to start living precisely when it is time to die. There is something genuinely tragic about the person who spends decades avoiding difficulty and seeking comfort, only to arrive at the end of their life with the creeping suspicion that they somehow missed it entirely. We must therefore fill the span of our life with activities, and we will not then complain that while each period of time felt like dragging, the life as a whole has passed all too quickly when we look back on it. That complaint, that time is both too long and somehow gone before you know it, belongs entirely to the person who does nothing. Every hour drags for them because they have nothing to fill it with, and yet, in retrospect, time seems to have fled, and they cannot account for where it went. It is a paradox that only idle people experience. Time feels simultaneously endless and wasted. But not so with busy people. For them, the hours are short and pass too quickly while they are occupied. They wonder where the time has gone until they look back and see how much they have managed to accomplish. A surgeon at the end of a long operating day, a teacher who has just finished a demanding week, an entrepreneur who has built something from nothing. They may be exhausted, but they know exactly where their time went, and the answer is satisfying.
A person must therefore preserve his vitality, that is, his energies, through constant practice. Just as physical fitness is lost without physical activities, the habit of purposeful action atrophies when it goes unused. His worth must be measured by what he actually does. Laziness is not merely a character flaw, it is a reduction of life itself.
This is the condition underlying all other duties. We must cultivate within ourselves an impulse to activity, because without it, no moral precept can take hold. A person who feels no inner drive to act will never even take trouble to start. Good intentions without energy behind them are simply inert. We must therefore be energetic and bold. In other words, vigorous and resolute even in difficult tasks, showing zeal. The person who keeps waiting for the right moment, the right mood, the right conditions, is really just waiting for a life they will never quite get around to living.
All occupation with activities is either play or work, and it is better to have some occupation than none at all. It is better to be occupied in play than not to be occupied at all, because by play we at least sustain our vigor and energies. Even something as casual as a card game or billiards keeps the mind and body switched on. But if a person has no occupation whatsoever, he loses some of his vitality and slowly becomes indolent. Think of someone who retires abruptly with no plan and finds themselves growing lethargic, so that after a while, he finds it increasingly difficult to regain his former energy of mind, because inaction, once it settles in, has a gravitational pull that is genuinely hard to break.
Without occupation, a person cannot live happily. If he earns his bread, he eats it with greater pleasure than when it is simply handed to him. When the day's work is over, the businessman goes eagerly to a concert or social gathering and is more content and pleased than if there had been no workday at all. A person feels more contented after heavy work than when he has done nothing, because by work he has set his powers in motion, feels them more keenly, and his mind is on that account more perceptive to pleasure and enjoyment. But when a person does nothing, he has no awareness of his life and his powers, and is simply not ready or disposed to enjoy anything.
Rest must be distinguished from idleness. There is something to be said for a life of rest if it comes at the end of an active life. When a person has laid down the duties of his position in the world after a busy life, he has the right to rest from the general business of the world and from social responsibilities, while there is no reason why he should not continue to find private occupations. This repose of the aged is no laziness, but a refreshment after labor. In order to rest, we must first have been occupied. A person who has done nothing cannot truly rest. Rest cannot be properly enjoyed except after exertion. After a busy day, we sleep well at night, but rest is simply not so pleasant or agreeable to a person who has done nothing to earn it.
There are various ways of quickening the time that we live, and we have various expressions for it. The more attention we give to time itself, the more we feel that it is empty. When we watch the clock, for example, time becomes long. The minutes stretch out and seem to multiply, as anyone who has sat through a dull meeting or waited for a delayed carriage will know. But he who has something to do does not notice time, and it appears to him all the shorter. When our attention is absorbed by objects and tasks, we do not notice time, and it seems short. But as soon as we direct our attention to measuring time and observing it, it becomes empty for us. Our life, therefore, is the longer, the more full it is. We can find an analogy in travels. For the same mileage, the distance traveled near a city seems shorter than the distance traveled farther away. This is because as we travel farther away and find nothing to see, the distance traveled appears long, But once we have covered it and look back, the journey there seems to have been short, because in all that distance we did not particularly notice anything and therefore had nothing to remember. Close to the city, on the other hand, there is more to see and take note of.